To create stencils, navigate to the Layouts and then Stencils page. We can now begin to make our stencils that will define the look of our text layout. Stencils are like the building blocks of how our information will be displayed. They're basically just bounding boxes that we call zones that our information will be plugged into. Let's start by making a stencil for the hamburger item from our Frank's menu. First, we need to measure the overall size that the stencil needs to be. So we hop into Photoshop to measure the widths and heights. First, we will measure the overall size that our stencil needs to be. As you can tell, we need our stencil to be about 550 pixels by about 120 pixels. Now, each data point will need its own space inside of the stencil, so we'll break it into 3 zones. Zone 1 will be our item name or label. When we measure that out, it looks to be around 450 by 70 pixels. Zone 2 will be our price, and we need that to be about 100 by 70 pixels. Zone 3 will be our description at the bottom, and that will be about 550 by 50 pixels. Now that we have the resolution of our stencil and our various zones, we can go ahead and create our stencil by hitting Add Stencil. Give it a name of burger, and then assign it a width and height. If you remember correctly, our width was 550 and our height was 120. Once we've done that, we can just hit Save. If we hover over the burger item stencil, we can hit Zones. Within our zones is where we'll create the zones that we measured out earlier. Let's start first with our label zone. Our label zone had a width of 450 and a height of 70 pixels. After that, we change our content type to be item because we're doing a menu item. Next, we change our item display type to label because we're using our label. Next, we give it a text style. Oh, that's wrong. Next, we give it a text style. For this instance, I'm going to be using item white left and then give it a content preview for hamburgers. Hit save and our first zone has been created. We can add another zone for our second zone, which if you remember is price. And price had a resolution of 100 by 70. It also had a horizontal offset of 450 because we want it to show up next to our label item and not on top of it. We then change our content type again to item, and we change our item display type to price because we're displaying the price attribute. We give it another style, and then we change our content preview again to hamburgers so that we can preview our hamburger product. Hit save. And finally, we can add our third and final zone, which is our description. And if you remember correctly on our description, our resolution was 550 wide by 50 tall. And this had a vertical offset of 70 pixels because we want it to show up below our price and label, which both have a height of 70 pixels. Again, we change our content type to item, and our style, we give it description white left, and our item display type is going to be text1 because we used our text1 attribute to type in the description of our hamburger. Finally, we change our content previewer to hamburgers and hit save. And our stencil and our zones have been created and are working. If we hit preview, we can see what our menu item will look like. If you have any questions about stencils, please feel free to contact our support team at support@dealmedia.com or give us a call at 770-619-1225, extension number 2.